Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options and Play video update. We'll make this one a little bit quicker than normal so I don't lose my voice before the end of the video. Um, One thing I will say in terms of what I'm seeing quarter to date is that still a very, very mixed environment out there. So you have to be super selective, and if you don't have the conviction, sometimes it's better to wait until after because right now seeing a lot of mixed moves, a lot of like choppy post action, post earnings reactions, and sometimes the better setups are either into the print or right after the print. All right, so just something to keep in mind there. Before they open on Monday, ON semiconductor pricing about 275. Um, I've had my fill of semis. Minus AMD's been fantastic, and it was great this week. And there's been a couple that have been standouts, but I feel like this group has just really struggled to get momentum. So, I mean, there are a few big earnings coming from the semis this next week, but I don't think I'm going to be focused much on this one. Um, Maybe after, if there's something going on, if the chart looks okay, if the stock breaks out, but for earnings, probably not. After the close on Monday, so just kind of like a busy week for E&P in general. You have Continental, Diamondback, PXD. Chevron and Exxon both reported Friday morning. Both closed the day red, or they're trading red as of right now. Um, so I got to see how this upcoming week goes. I mean, like those are the two big names in that sector. I mean, if they report good numbers and sell off, I don't know how it translates to the others, but I mean, in general, these are just more swing trade ideas for me anyway. They haven't really been like an earnings focus for me in a while, several quarters. So, I mean, anything I do will probably be after earnings regardless. NXPI, so another semi. So you can see pricing about 10 points, but nice setup. It's just, they just got to prove that they're ready to go. Because, I mean, NXPI is one of like a bunch of semis that have really nice charts, but I mean, they just have not triggered for the most part. So, I want to make sure this is going to go. I want to see good action, a good number, and I want to see like a good breakout, and then maybe something I look at for a trade. Take two, so about 11 points is what they're expecting here. So all the gaming stocks report next week. Take two is the first. The first typically means higher volatility, right? So even though I don't think the chart is all that interesting, maybe it benefits just because it's the first. People kind of see what the numbers look like, right? I mean, I normally like to play like the sympathy route on this group because you don't normally have all three of them report the same week. Unfortunately, this quarter they do, so that's off the table. But if I was going to go after one of them, it would maybe just be take two because of the fact that it's the first and the uncertainty is the greatest. All right, before the open on Tuesday, Baba priced in about 9.5. I really have absolutely no clue what to make of the Chinese tech names this quarter. I mean, there's so much headline risk right now. Overnight moves are so erratic. I mean, just look at what it's done over the last couple of weeks. It has been moving around a ton though, and 9.5 points doesn't seem too pricey for a straddle. Um, I'll probably leave it alone, but I mean, like a JD or PDD, I mean, either of those might be a sympathy play because they tend to react to BABA when it reports. Um, Also, Under Armour. So about 225 is what they're looking for here. With the way athletic apparel names have been acting, I thought Under Armour would have been stronger into earnings. It's also coming off the back-to-back really strong quarters itself, so got to see where it is going into earnings on Tuesday because if it's still hanging out down here, I mean, it might be something that sets up either for like a bullish trade or maybe like a lower debit volatility trade. After the close on Tuesday, so Activision, 4.5 points is what's priced in. We'll see what Take Two says, but Activision's actually been racked recently on a high-profile lawsuit, so I think the upside might be more limited on this one versus Take Two or EA. Lyft, about 4.5 points is what they're looking for on Lyft. It's the first of the two to report. Uber's later in the week. It was hit last quarter. It's actually basically like right where it was too for that May report. And Lyft and Uber, they've just been inconsistent trading wise. Lyft it seems like it has maybe more potential for movement, but when I look at the chart, like it doesn't really like stand out as like a good pattern one way or the other. But pricing's not terrible, so maybe it's something to look at for volatility strategy. But I'm on the fence with that. Match. So about 12 points. What's priced in here? It's never really been a focused trading stock for me, but it does occasionally move quite a bit around earnings. Technically looks pretty solid. Um, Might be more of like a toss-up pattern, though. I mean, it's like one of those where if you have conviction and you've played the name in the past, maybe it's something you look at. If it's not really like a name you have a whole lot of experience with, maybe it's something you wait until after earnings. Because I mean, some of the social media stocks have been like all over the place. Like some are up a lot, some are down a lot. So it's definitely kind of like a toss-up. And then Oxy and Devon, like I said, more E&P names. So same playbook. Wait till after, see what they say, see where the stocks are. Skills. So about $1.85 is what's priced in on this. It might be an interesting one because it's very, very beaten down. You can see it's hovering just above its monthly support. It looks kind of like a make or break pattern to me into earnings, and it does have a history of moving too. So it's actually like a volatility strategy candidate. Wednesday before the open, CVS. So the price is about $3 or so. After a strong report in May, this went on a huge run. It's pulled back, consolidating. It seems like a pattern where it could trade higher into earnings. So we're gonna have to see where it is on Tuesday afternoon ahead of that early Wednesday report. 'Cause that's gonna really determine like what type of strategy or whether or not to go after this for actual earnings release. GM, so about 3 points is what's expected. Ford had a really solid print this week. I feel like that should bode well for GM. So it's attempting to get back above this trend support level, and I mean even more so if we can get back above 60, that'd really be a big development and could get momentum going again. But this and Ford, to me, they're both longer term swing focuses. Just not as interested in like the earnings play because I feel like there's more potential over several months on them. All right, after the close on Wednesday, so EA about 775. This is the last of the big three, so the big three gaming names. So it's going to be tough to move unless it's like a huge surprise, right? Whether it's really really surprisingly good or surprisingly bad. Etsy about 18 and a half points. Is what's priced in after Amazon's disappointment. I feel like expectations might be lower for Etsy. It was hit hard last quarter though, and it had been attempting to recover before just today. Um, the pricing's high here, but I mean it really does seem like it should move. I guess the only way I'd play it is if I can get risk down. Just maybe go out a little bit further or do spreads because I mean it seems like it should move, but at that pricing, I don't know if it's going to move a lot above that. So I have to really get the premiums down there. Fastly, about 6 points is what's expected. It's really been an underperformer since last year's huge run. It was crushed the last quarter, still acts weak. Biases to the downside again for me, but maybe expectations are finally lower enough where it could surprise. Revolve. So, coming off a couple great quarters, stock is acted great. They're priced in 10 points this time around. It would not surprise me if this rallies into its report because I mean, it's got momentum coming from the last couple earnings releases, and if it takes off running ahead of time, just got to see where it is ahead of like its own earnings report to see whether there's still a trade left on the table. Roku about 42 points is what's priced in. Should be interesting. I don't know if I really know what to make of it, but I mean, it's come all the way back up after getting. I mean, it was down a bunch in May, come all the way back up, just retested its high, right? I feel like the numbers are really going to have to be excellent this week because it has had a big recovery, a quick recovery too. Netflix didn't really weigh on it, and I don't know if that's going to have any read through, but something to keep in mind. And it's not my favorite stock to trade, but it's got the look of something that could move. So it's got that going for it at least, right? Uber. So 325. That's what's priced in here. So we'll see what Lyft says. See where Uber is. See how the stock reacts. Because the Lyft numbers are definitely going to have an impact on Uber. All right, Thursday before the open, Datadog. So about 10 points is what they're looking for on this. There aren't that many top tier software reports next week. This is one of the big ones, so it's probably gonna be a focus for me. Historically, was a mover up until the last 2 quarters, so I'm gonna be curious to see if it reverts back to its higher volatility from last year. It is near the top end of its yearly range, so it's kind of an interesting technical setup. Um, the option pricing is high versus what it's moved recently. So the only way I'd probably be involved is if I can get debit risk down on it. Fiverr, about 32 points. Those are monthly options. What's priced in? Peer Upwork had an okay report, but wasn't enough to send it higher. Um, so Fiverr's gonna have to be better. It's not a name I've traded a lot recently. So I'll probably leave it alone. But I mean, it does tend to have some big moves, and if it looks good after earnings, we maybe want to hop in for like a quick swing trade because when it goes, it tends to string days together, as you can see, right? It tends to have when it drops for several days. When it rallies for several days. So it's one of those like trending names that even if you miss the first day, I mean, there's can oftentimes be like several more days in that direction on top of it. So it'll be something I'll looking at after. Moderna, about 30 points, what they're pricing in here. So I mean, they're going to make a lot of money off the vaccines this quarter because I mean, Pfizer just had a huge raise on the vaccine sales, so odds are Moderna is going to do the same thing too. I think the hardest thing for me is just to gauge how high the expectations are on this after its massive run. Um, it's actually been a surprisingly good day trading stock, so I might keep it that way for now because it's kind of hard to lay out the 30 points of premium for this following like this huge recent move. Wayfair, about 27 points is what they're looking for here. Another e-commerce name, not acting great. End earnings, Overstock, that was sold off. And obviously Amazon was weaker, so this can be really wild around earnings. And actually, the further it drops, maybe the more interesting it gets. Very speculative, but I might go a little bit further out of the money for a volatility strategy just to see if it does have one of those like 40 to 50 point moves like it's occasionally had in the past. After the close on Thursday, Beyond Meat about 12.5 points. That's what's priced in. Um, Earnings have been very bad recently. It does seem to rally, but it's on like headlines and short squeezing. But using last quarter as a guide, I'd probably be more bearish because it was a rough quarter. Expedia about 11 points is what's priced in. So this booking trip, they all report next week. I personally haven't been trading this group much, but historically, Expedia can have some big moves around earnings. It seems like the tightest setup of the bunch. Pricing does seem high, though. I'm kind of on the fence with it. Guess we'll see if booking numbers, what those are, and how it influences Expedia, and then determine if there's a trade still on it. Shake Shack, about 10 points is what they're looking for in this. Restaurant stocks were on fire up until this week. Shake Shack could be interesting, though, because it's been lagging. Also, historically, a pretty big move around earnings. It's got some gaps on it over the past. Option pricing's high, so I think if I was going to do something, I'd have to get the risk debit down for a trade that makes sense, but it could be a decent volatility strategy idea. Square, about 17.5 points, what they're looking for in this. I'm not really sure what to make of it now. PayPal was disappointing. Amazon dragged it lower on Friday. It could mean that this week's earnings release will be more volatile, but it's really hard to say where the expectations are now. It is a go-to day trade name, swing trade name for me. So if I'm not in it for earnings, I will definitely be watching it after because I mean there's been some like great opportunities for like shorter term or even like kind of like couple week slash month long time frames on this. So it's a go to trading name for me and it's definitely going to be on watch. Zillow, about 10.5 points is what's priced in. It's been out of place since last quarter. No major bounce. Stuck at the bottom end of its range. Overall, technically, it seems a lot more bearish, but um, it's one of those where I feel like if it's like a positive surprise, it could lead to a pretty big pop. Kind of an interesting volatility strategy idea for me, and I also don't think the pricing is that crazy either. So I feel like it's one of the better setups. Friday before the open, CGC, and then Kronos. Um, Tilray was surprisingly not bad, but let's see what the others have to say because these are still broken stocks, and I feel like they need more than one good day to get better. So I'll be watching them, but probably not going to be playing them. And then lastly, Friday is Draftkings. So they're pricing in about 375. It was crushed after a beat and raise last quarter, and we're struggling to recover. Um, if it was going to start turning the corner, I feel like this might be the quarter because you got the football season coming up, right? And maybe that's like a catalyst for it to wake up. It might be a little bit more speculative, but maybe I'll look at something like further out of the money, further out time wise too on the bull side, just to see if it gets going into the fall and can really start to rebuild some momentum. But we'll see how the week goes, and that'll be game time decision. No pun intended. All right, so you can see for busy lineup, a lot of big expected moves, like a lot of big price wise expected moves. So should be a lot going on. All right, so if you like this video and you're looking for more information about trading earnings with options, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options and play. Have a fantastic weekend. Stay well, and we'll talk to you on Monday.